Alright guys, Kane from Garage 11 and we're going to start a new series that we're going to be calling Behind the Build. It's going to be looking at some of the restorations we've done, some of the builds that you guys have. It'd be really cool to work with you guys to sort of see what's out there. Be myself and the other half of Garage 11, Mr. Marshall Smith, will be dissecting bikes. So this is actually his bike and one of the bikes that brought us together from a business point of view and a friendship point of view. So it's a pretty cool story. So hang around, sit tight, and we're going to run through all the stuff we've done with this and give you a bit of insight, good, bad and ugly. Thank you very much guys. Alright, 03 RM250, yeah?
That's what it is.
It's come up pretty good. It was pretty, I think when I got involved, it was more a rolling frame at that stage. You sort of pretty much hooked in and pulled it apart, powder coated the frame.
Did I have a motor in it when I bought it to you or no?
No, the motor wasn't in it. I think that was still away elsewhere getting rebuilt.
Yeah.
Because I came into it for the frame guards really. You sort of hit me up about them, seeing if we could 3D scan the bike and CAD draw up some frame guards because we couldn't get them.
Yeah, I think it was getting to the point where I knew it was going to be together and rideable reasonably soon, and I didn't want to scuff the frame up and all that kind of business. But the problem with the 03 being a standalone year, there's nothing.
I think that's a big problem with Suzuki's in general, with that sort of generation.
Well, trying to find I think maybe Works Connection or someone did frame guards for the 01 and the 02, and then 04 through to 08, but there was just nothing available. I didn't want to screw up the powder coat and whatnot, so
MTO did the powder coat on that, yeah?
MTO powder coated the frame. We did that, it's called Nocturnal Gold, I'm pretty sure.
Is it prismatic colour?
I can't remember, to be honest. But it's like, it's got a gold sort of flack to it there. I basically hit them up and said, I want to do my frame black, and they gave me the old, do you really want to just do it boring black? And
those ones are pretty good with versatility. Colours and shit.
Well, I didn't really know that you could do that much with powder coat until I went down and had a chat with them, and they offered this colour to me, and I thought it looked pretty good, and it wasn't just a boring black, but it also not going to take away from obviously the graphics and all that kind of stuff. So I think the Nocturnal worked really well.
So you've been a Suzuki guy for ages, even before we sort of started hanging out. You've had Suzies as a kid, growing up, the whole lot, really.
Yeah, so I had a 90, well I actually have a 91 now. But
you have the 91?
I have the 91 that I had when I was a kid. It was the first actual dirt bike that my dad bought me. And then from then it's just been Suzuki. I had 4 strokes. I had an 03 125 a while back.
They're a good bike. They're a strong bike.
I hardly rode it, to be honest. I built it and didn't really want it anymore, and then I sold it to buy a mini bike. So
I think a lot of people bought mini bikes or sold big bikes to buy mini bikes in that sort of period. I think they're still doing it.
Yeah. But that sort of having the 125 then stemmed this thing. It was in COVID, and as everybody did in COVID, decided I want to build a dirt bike.
Yeah.
So I searched high and low on Marketplace, found this thing, which actually wasn't in that bad a shape.
That was actually allegedly restored, wasn't it?
I don't know about restored, but he said that he'd done a top end and he'd done this and he'd done that.
Yeah.
And it was one of them situations where it was a, I know what I have in COVID thing and blah, blah, blah. And basically went over and had a chat with him about it. He wanted 5.5, I think he wanted for it. I didn't want to give him 5.5, but I wasn't leaving without it, so I ended up giving him 5.5. It was a runner, everything was fine, it all ran well, but I knew what I wanted to do with it right off the bat. Pretty much got home that day.
Did you have a pretty good mind's eye sort of perspective on where you were going to go with it? Like, did you have a vision that you wanted to do?
To a degree, yeah. It was buy the bike, completely strip it, and I did want to buy something in a bit more beat up condition, but there wasn't anything around at the time. So yeah, I literally got home and completely stripped it down and started the build. But at the time, obviously, I didn't know you. I didn't have many connections in the dirt bike world in regards to parts and whatnot. So basically, everything that I did on this thing, apart from the motor when I first did it, I paid retail for.
Yeah.
So
that gets pretty expensive pretty quick. If you're retailing a restoration, which look, for us as a business, it works. You know, we obviously have accounts set up because we are a business, but yeah, if you're doing it from a retail point of view, some of these bikes, especially when you look at some of the parts, you sort of go, wow, it's getting expensive.
You know, the big thing was, and the funny thing is, like, as soon as we got here, old cameraman Sam here asked me if I'd ever sell it. For me to sell it, and this is ridiculous, but the thing owes me like 20 grand.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little bit more, and no one's paying 20 G's for a 03 RM250, no matter how good it is.
And that's what we say to a lot of people though, like guys who are buying a lot of these bikes, I'm buying it for an investment. Don't. They're a dirt bike. Buy them because you love them, buy them because you want to do it. Don't buy it because you're going to make money. They're a dirt bike. They're a depreciating asset if there ever was one.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, the build process started, as I said, I did the frame to begin with through MTO, and then everything just started happening from there. Something would come up, I'd spend every night in bed, because we couldn't go anywhere, it was lockdown. Spend every night in bed or every second of the day on eBay or on some parts website trying to find what I could do, what I could get, things that would make it different, things that would make it stand out. And then also amongst doing all that, trying to figure out what graphics I could go with, as I really like modern bikes with a retro feel.
Yeah, that's a hard one to do though, because that can go really south really quickly. It's a super slippery slope with modern and retro.
A lot of the retro stuff doesn't transfer across.
Because you've got 3 different generations in this bike here visually.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. So in regards to graphics, it was, at the time I was getting a lot of my graphics through Rival, and talking to Alex about what I wanted to do. He'd done a previous CR for me a few years back, which sort of got me into the bike build thing, and we did a pretty wild job on that thing. So told him what I wanted to do. He was cool with it. I basically may or may not have taken the shrouds from someone else's idea and then tweaked them to work more to how I wanted them to work. But everything else is all mine and Alex's work, and it was just a matter of trying to make it work with the restyle and whatnot. And like you said before, like sometimes it just does not.
It doesn't hit.
It doesn't.
You look
hit.
at some of the cowies and stuff like that. Like, oh
it
man,
just
it just doesn't work.
So it was a matter, and everybody's either with this bike, I don't know what it is, but everybody that does these restyle kits, when they do the shrouds, I have a thing with they always make the bike look like a banana.
You've got to have all your angles.
Everything's got to be right.
Flow.
So I didn't want, like, I'm a big guy for everything running in line with the seat.
It's a visual cleanliness and it's a competition. Composition thing as well.
Yeah,
that sort of helps flow. Like your eye leads your eye through the whole.
Exactly.
bike.
Like you start at the front where it's full on and everything sort of tapers off as you get towards the back, but then the swing arm again brings it all back in with the 96 sort of logos on the shrouds and on the swing arm.
Yeah.
So that was obviously the graphics is one of the biggest things on this bike, and we constantly.
I was about to say that was going to be my next question.
You keep reminding me that
let's do them.
Everybody wants to buy these graphics, but I'm stuck on it as this is my bike. I don't want other people's bikes to look like.
Well, then I do understand what you're saying, because then it gets lost in the noise because everyone's all of a sudden has got those retro style graphics and that sort of stuff and colours, and all of a sudden it just loses its pop. It loses that wow.
There is a few examples that I've seen where
the which versions
someone's tried to replicate my bike and you do you, but it just doesn't hit. I don't think it hits as hard as what this hits.
The graphics are one element of this bike. Like you look at the whole bike and you start to really take in the work that's gone in, and the money and the time. Look at the exhaust, which we'll touch on in a little while, and the engine. Everything works together. It's not just a graphics kit or a stock RM or an RM that's done 400 hours.
No.
Like it's definitely,
it
all works together.
It all leads to, you look at one thing, you're like, oh, and then the next thing you notice something else, and it's all, I'm from a design background, like I'm a tattooist guy, like that's my normal everyday job, and obviously that helps with, I guess, bringing things together and making everything look and work visually.
Yeah.
That's a massive thing for me.
So the front end, that's a modern front end?
Yeah, that's a 2013 RMZ front end.
They weren't the best though,
I was waiting for that.
They weren't the greatest front end.
No, they're a single function fork, and to be honest, I only went with it because it makes everything look new.
Yeah.
The older style forks on these things, I wasn't a big fan of the look. It
I
was
still
all about
think this works though, even like from like it doesn't look
no.
wildly out
No.
of context. You haven't put that front end on an 85 RM.
No,
you know what I mean? Where it looks out of
It
place
all
and
sort
wouldn't
of
work.
works together.
Yeah.
And I knew that I probably wouldn't ride this thing too much. It is set up, like the forks and everything are set up.
Yeah.
And as you know, you've ridden it. You like the way it rides
I rode in the sand. It's still very
in the
stiff.
sand.
Yeah.
I literally don't ride it. Like it's probably got half an hour on the motor.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it just sits in the lounge room and looks pretty. And that was where I went with the forks. It was more
A visual thing that was
it was nothing to do with rideability.
You're not going to sit on for 30 minutes and
No.
pump motos.
And I'll probably get crucified for it. People saying, you know, don't leave it in the garage and actually get out and ride it.
But your other 4 bikes get ridden pretty
I
regularly.
have a few bikes, and yeah, I don't really have the urge to ride this thing. In all honesty, as long as I can keep it, I'll keep it. Unless I really need to sell it, the thing will just sit there and look pretty, and that's where it needs to be at for me.
Yeah. Everyone's different. I mean, I have my own bikes that I won't ride. You know, passionate about the cow, and I'll never ride it because of the parts that are going into it. We all have that. We have other bikes that we ride, and vintage, and new and old, and 2 strokes, 4 strokes.
Yeah. That's it.
You know, guys who have that opinion, let them spend the money, and then they can decide whether they want to ride it or not.
You know, it does come out every now and again. It
Absolutely
does come
does.
out.
We've ridden it. There's a few, like a couple of us have ridden it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
I think Aiden from Cruise Tune, I think he took it for a burn.
For a bit of rip, yeah.
But like I said, it's fun in the sand because it is stiff, and that front end is definitely that
It's
characteristic.
definitely. I've ridden it at Park 4, and it wasn't enjoyable. but I haven't done any R&D into the suspension. Like it's not like I've taken it out and gone, all right, cool. We need to take it out and tweak this and tweak that. Like,
Because it's not that bike. It's not that bike.
No, it's not.
Triple clamps, they look pretty good. I know they're stock, but they look.
So-
They're super cool colour though.
All of the different coloured Cerakoting stuff, I had no idea about any of that.
Yeah.
When I first got it done and I went to MTO and we were talking about powder coating the frame and whatnot, I told them I was getting R&Z triple clamps, but didn't want to go fill it or anodize the blah blah blah. I just wanted to run the stock stuff. And they actually said to me, there's this product called Cerakote.
But that was only sort of coming in. Cerakote only sort of hit hard for our industry, like in the firearms industry for years, military, whatever else. But for us, it's
So, I mean, I had no idea, and I didn't realise that you could literally Cerakote everything, and that the threads on everything would still be good. And because I was
like powder coat. In the old days, we powder coat something.
it
Doesn't fit.
No, it doesn't fit.
It doesn't look right.
Thick.
Yeah.
So yeah, they went to town on so many things. At the beginning, it was literally triple clamps, master cylinders. There was
shock body,
all that kind of stuff was what I originally got done. None of the motor was done. It was all completely stock when I first did the motor.
Yeah. It was just hydroblasted, cleaned up, made
hydroblasted, cleaned up, made it look brand new.
And the cases. The outer, like inner and outer clutch. Or only the inner of the water pump, I think, wasn't it?
I don't even know if I had them Cerakote. I
Maybe
can't remember. I don't know whether it was all just hydroblasted or not. I know that the Boyson covers that were on it they were just magnesium coloured.
Yeah, they were that sandy sort of colour.
Yeah, but I can't remember, to be honest, if I had any of the motor Cerakoted. But so MTO did all that originally.
Yeah.
And this is before obviously I met you and got involved in the Garage 11 thing. But yeah, that was the Cerakoting. But I had no idea about it. I didn't know that you could do all this cool, wonderful, wild stuff.
And it adds a big element of class to a lot of these bikes as well. Like we all know your favourite colour being burnt bronze, in inverted commas. Yeah. But I think we know that a lot of when done right, Cerakote does definitely add a factory look to it, 100%. A performance look to it. It adds that coolness factor that we probably haven't been able to get for forever with this sort of stuff. And
as you said, like
then you go full big, like each to their own, like whatever you want to do. But you get guys that go full burnt bronze and burnt bronze. For me, I think like I have 2 ways of thinking when it comes to bikes, and burnt bronze is it's not even really like it works for some suspension stuff and a couple of little bits, but when people say it's magnesium coloured, it's not even close. Magnesium brown. Do you know what I mean? It depends when you get it. So it hits a weird spot.
And I think like in my mind, this could be totally wrong and totally off the mark, but a lot of people know burnt bronze by the name.
Yeah.
Like when people go, oh, it's Cerakote, they instantly go burnt bronze because it's something they know, it's something they've seen,
and like you said, like sometimes you spray it and you go, whoa, that looks cool.
I still like a shock body if it's burnt bronze, doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
But it's like for me, it's when
Everything's
it's
burnt bronze.
the inner clutch cover's burnt bronze, this is burnt bronze, and then your bike's
Burnt bronze.
like red or something. And for me, that doesn't work.
Yeah. But I think it's a personal.
It is,
Yeah.
and like I think with all the greys that I really like.
Greys work well.
Greys, they're a neutral colour, but they also make everything look better in my opinion. And it also brings the element of, you know, if you take your bike to a track where the dirt's really acidic, and you have Cerakote on your parts, and it sits overnight, it doesn't eat your aluminium. Like it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't pit. So it's.
I know some track people will put lime, like if it's wet, people put lime in it, it destroys rims.
It's not even that. It's just tracks in general. Like you leave dirt on your bike.
We go to a salty environment.
That's right. And the Cerakote. I'm not saying Cerakote everything.
Yeah.
Just because it protects, but I'm just saying it helps. Like you'll notice a bike. You can buy a brand new bike, ride it on the weekend, leave it sit for 2 weeks and not wash it.
Yeah.
And then wash it, and your brake calipers are all pitted.
Yeah. 100%.
Purely because dirt has acidic elements in it. It has this, it has that. But, you know, like I said, I really like the way it ties everything in. And some people say you Cerakote too much stuff.
I think it's kind of like our opinion with burnt bronze. Like everyone's different. You know, you do everything different.
Exactly.
A60s, good looking wheel.
Yeah, the rims were didn't really know what to do kind of thing.
I'm going to get shot for saying this, but black fits really well. I know a lot of vintage guys will probably kill me for that, but for me personally, I think it looks good.
I'm a big black rim guy.
Yeah.
And like on these things, I don't think silver.
I think I've got a little lost. I think because there is so much dark elements in the bike as well.
All the
really
darkness
got lost.
works really well. But the
Motor, let's get into it because
this thing was a nightmare.
This was a nightmare, and this is where we're involved.
This is where it all sort of.
This is actually the demon bike. This is the Achilles heel bike.
Yeah, this thing is like the devil to me. So I got the motor built. Like I said, it was hydroblasted, cleaned up. Everything in it was new, bearing seals, the whole works. Put it in, rode it. I had Electron on it.
So you had Electron on it.
I had a standard Electron on it, like one of the first series. I think they're called a H series.
Yeah.
Electron on it when I first got it.
They're a good product too. They're a really sharp product.
They are, and they are.
I know a lot of guys have a bit of conjecture there about you know, old school whatever. I think they're a good thing.
A lot of people just
are scared of them.
They don't like them because they don't know them. And it's like anything. There's always an evolution of every product or everything.
You've got the Billetron now, and that thing's an animal.
Well, I have the Billetron, and I had it in this thing.
Yeah.
But going back to the motor, the H series I had in it, I had a lot of trouble with it originally. I bought it from a supplier in Australia, and they were very unhelpful in regards to how to set it up, what I should do with it. Like I did speak to them. I was having a lot of detonation issues when I first got it, and tried pumping more fuel into it, this and that, but then the more fuel, it was idling funny. It was doing a bunch of...
Because you never really chased it. We could never figure out where it was at. You always didn't want to do...
I had a lot of trouble with it. Turns out I ended up having the wrong metering rod in it, so I had a 500 metering rod in it, which when I spoke to Electron Direct, they told me that it was the wrong one. So I got the right one, still had detonation issues, so I got the head shaved and started running a bit of race fuel. Turns out, still to this day, I don't know.
We got it to the dyno at that stage, pretty much. Maybe that's where we sort of...
I took it to a dyno, like a mate that had a dyno. We put it on the dyno. At the start, I told them about the issues that I was having, and then we sort of diagnosed it to not even being the detonation issue. It turned out the chain runner that I have, the chain guide was causing a lot of vibration, which in your helmet sounded like detonation. Anyway, so it was on the dyno.
If it's still pumping it with race gas and getting them, the head sort of, it's not going to hurt. You're not in you know, as long as you're running race fuel and you're doing those sorts of stuff in the head, you're not gonna,
100%.
you know, you're heading in a good direction.
But yeah, we put it on the dyno. I probably was running the Electron. When I was messing around with the standard Electron myself, and the research that I was doing, I think I might have got a little bit lost in direction, and I think I ended up running it quite lean. So we blew it up.
It went bang.
It went
on its first power run.
No, second power run. Second power run on the dyno. It decided
everything
it didn't need a piston anymore.
Yeah. But that's developed. That's these are competition bikes, race bikes, right? Frigging around with them, all that stuff. You've got to go lean. You've got to try this stuff. That's part of it. It's development.
Well, yeah, but like
it's not great.
I didn't know the direction I was going with, and I didn't understand it. Like even back then, which was
a while ago now.
It's probably 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like I wasn't as knowledgeable as what I am now with anything dirt bike. I just rode dirt bikes and could put them together and stuff. Couldn't build a motor to save my life. Didn't know anything about it. So yeah. Anyway, we put it on dyno. It made a funny noise. It did some things, and then it didn't go anymore.
Yeah. Made a whole heap of funny noises.
Made a lot of funny noises, and there was a lot of stuff from a part that was in the motor that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So this is where it sort of sat. I wasn't going to do it.
It went in the naughty corner for a while.
It did. It sat in the naughty corner because I just had enough of it. Didn't really give a crap, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to you about it, and you were like, we need to pull this whole thing down and rebuild the whole motor again.
Which is not easy when you've just finished putting it together.
No, and you know, you spend all this money and you do it, and then you got to do it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did it again. And this time, I decided, hey, let's Cerakote the whole motor just to make things that little bit easier.
And it's cool colour because it's not wildly left. It's not, like you said, it's not black or it's not anything. It's still a grey colour and it kind of looks real subtle.
So the main part of the motor is gunmetal. Pretty sure I can't really see from here, but I think the inner clutch cover
I think it's a darker colour.
Is cobalt maybe, or tungsten, I don't know, one or the other. Or it might even be black, I can't see, I can't remember. Head's black. Then I redid the case, the clutch cover and the ignition cover because it just didn't work. So did those in a nice dark grey as well. And I actually built this motor myself with a bit of help from you.
So we actually had the cylinder already concealed. We got like the cylinder to sort that out.
I sorted that out.
Because it completely schmutzeled itself.
It had a little bit of damage,
I think TSP recut the dome in the head and sorted out that.
They did that. Yep. And then you crank, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we put it all back together. It looked really nice. I put it on a stand, took some photos. MX Store still to this day use it as one of their sponsored ad photos, even though they didn't really have anything to do with it. But you know,
we get a lot of parts from there.
We do get parts from there, but you know,
it's nice to know that sort of you know that it has hit that hard.
They're
a big part of
they're
their
a massive
community.
company. They you know, obviously they get a lot of attention. So yeah, my motor gets a lot of attention. And then the Carby, we got rid of the H series, and I ended up getting the Billetron.
I don't think for any negative reason. I think it went on something else. The Billetron came out. And it was
yeah,
like,
Billetron came out. It looked, well, to me, it looked really cool. A lot of people hate them and reckon they look like Chinese pieces of garbage, but again, each to their own.
Everyone's got their opinion.
Put it on the thing, and everything ran really well. The Billetron was a lot more user friendly in regards to
more external for adjustments and stuff like
yeah,
that.
the adjustments on it were, you can basically do everything. You don't need tools really. The only thing that you need to use a tool for is the metering rod, which is basically like the needle. But it also has like little screw off bolts on the top that you can just literally undo with your fingers. You can pull the slide out, and then you use it's a tool specified for the metering rod, but many people just use it, applies with a rag on it and make the adjustments like that. But everything else is by hand, like you can adjust it all externally. The only reason it's not on the bike now is because I actually have a 06 YZ250 that I do ride, so I put it on that. So I was like, it's an expensive unit to not.
There comes a point where you're like, there's enough sitting in the living room already.
I mean, it's just sitting there looking pretty. It's not actually getting used.
Yeah.
So I put it on the YZ and it actually runs.
That YZ balls.
It runs really well. Like it's a really good carb. It's easy to use.
Yeah.
And it made the YZ run really nice. And now I have the YZ carby on this, which is pretty much the exact same thing.
It works.
It does the job. But yeah, that's basically it for the motor.
Yeah. And the thing that always makes a two-stroke motor look amazing, as though they do a fantastic product, is the JSV cone pie.
Yeah, so the JSV, I originally had a Bills pipe on this thing, because as a kid, you know, Bills was the
PC,
all
those
and
are
all.
the two
Exactly.
guys.
And at the time, we didn't have any tyres with JSV at all.
Yeah.
So I had the Bills on it. And as time sort of went on, and I bought a JSV pipe for one of my other bikes, JSV and us have sort of developed a reasonably healthy relationship. Yeah. So I got to the point where what actually happened was the Bills pipe was really nice. It's a cone look pipe, it's not actually a cone pipe. So it doesn't have each individual weld, they basically make it look like it does, which is, you know, completely fine.
What they do there, they do there.
That's the thing that I had the issue with is the label that's on the pipe, it rubs off.
Yeah.
So it's pressed and it's just a plate and it just has
like it's not even a laser etching or anything.
No, it's just a black bit of whatever, and it wore off. And as a bike that doesn't get ridden, to me that was a big part. So I actually I emailed Bills and asked them if they could send me the PDF logo so that I could. Right now it sounds dumb because as if they could let me plagiarise their logo.
Yeah, that's always hard because exhaust companies.
But you know, I said, can you send me the logo so that I can make some little stickers up just for like photos and, you know, for YouTube or anything like that where I want to showcase the bike. Got an email back and they said no.
Yeah.
Blatant no. And I was like,
it's a hard, like you said though, like plagiarism protection. It's a common. It's
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. So the JSV, it's a pretty meaty pipe. They definitely they do a good product and it's definitely it looks super. Like it complements.
That was what got me. Like I saw the pipes and I was like, these things look unreal. Like I didn't really know anything about JSV. They just sort of pop up on Insta.
But I mean, for us, like even for a lot of people, these bikes, this day and age, it's more of an aesthetics thing. We're not chasing cone angles and stuff like that to get different housing. We're just not. So definitely.
Yeah, and I think as we said before, like this bike's a visual thing. It doesn't get ridden, blah blah blah. So the cone looks great, works well. You know, it is what it is. I've got a cone on, well, you've got a cone on like a bike that you ride regularly as well. Yep. And they, in all honesty, on an everyday bike, in regards to aesthetics, they're probably not the best.
No, they do.
They rust.
They rust, and you got to look after them.
You got to look after
them. The cones don't stay looking like this.
No.
When they've
been ridden
especially like we ride at least once a week.
Yeah.
And the bikes get a lot. Like our riders get a lot.
I mean, if we were swinging off the bike, making the entire pipe,
if we were good riders, is what you're saying.
Yeah, then the rust would probably all come off like that. Yeah. But I mean, majority of the time we're probably just putting around and putting the pipe to about 50% of its.
Yeah, 100%. Joys of being a vet rider. You're gonna have the fancy stuff. You don't have to justify.
Right. Have all the pretty parts and not go fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, in regards to this thing, like the JSV, once I put that on, I ended up selling the Bills to a guy in Wollongong, I think.
Yeah.
But I did. Now this is a weird thing, but I actually kept the muffler off the Bills because it's a full carbon muffler.
That looks cool. Carbon always hits well.
It looks unreal and it plays into the aesthetic of the bike, but I've got a JSV sticker on it.
Yeah,
sorry. But JSV, they do a muffler for it, but it's a carbon tip. It's not a full carbon.
Yeah. Which looks good. You got one of them on your.
I've got one on my YZ, yeah. But I think I needed this to keep with the aesthetic. So again, like personal preference, the Bills was great. I had a bit of, whatever it is with them, and decided to go with the JSV, after working up a relationship with Gert, so now, well, going back to the YZ, I actually had an FMF on it, and I was just going to run the FMF, but Gert saw the build and sent me a message and was like, hey man, we don't really want you to run the FMF on that bike, so we're going to do you a deal you can't refuse and give you a full pipe for your YZ. So now all my 2-strokes have JSVs.
Yeah. So I guess after talking about the exhaust or whatever, we'll probably fire it up, because this thing actually has a pretty unique idle to it.
Yeah.
It's the camless cam 2-stroke, really, isn't it? It's got a real
It is quite
thing about
lucky,
it.
yeah. I mean, when it had the Electron on it was different again. So I don't know whether it's carb related or whether it's just how these things run. But it's a very sort of lumpy sounding bike.
Yeah.
And that could be pipe related as well. I don't really know.
I mean, 2-strokes are pretty much just big musical instruments, and they work a lot of sound waves and
When
stuff.
I bought it, I can't even remember what it sounded like when I bought it, because I rode it down the street like an absolute menace, and then it never got ridden after that. Yeah, literally just stripped down.
So yeah, well, this is it. This is the iron. This is the catalyst for our working relationship. A lot of Garage 11, a lot of where we are now. People sort of see us around, they know that we're sort of fairly inseparable with this sort of stuff. So it's been pretty cool. It's a pretty special bike, I think, for both of us.
The Demon bike.
The Demon
also
bike.
it developed what we know today is the G11 crew, really.
Yeah, it did. It's a pretty special bike. I mean, for me, it's not even mine. It has a really big part in my heart. It's like I said, it is a menace bike, but they all have their own personalities, and some of them are more hard work than others.
It all came from some aluminium
frame
guards.
Just some frame guards, which we're getting a little bit of interest. We may do them in carbon. We're not sure yet. Possibly. There's a lot of work there, but they do look cool. So big shout out to JSV, SP Moto seats. It's one thing we haven't spoken about. It's as much as you sort of see the seat. It's that's the bit that holds your ass on, really. And he does all our seats.
So I've been getting my seats through SP Moto seats for probably 8-9 years now. Back when I used to live in Sydney, I was still getting seats from them.
Yeah.
And then they. So actually, this is a brand new seat. I bought it from some place in Queensland. But it was actually a tall seat because there was none really around. So SP actually shaped it down to make it look not so ridiculous. And because I'm about 4'3", I didn't really need a tall seat anyway.
But his seats, his covers are unreal.
They are very good. Like I said, I've been going to them. People ask all the time, are they good?
Yes.
But I wouldn't be getting them for 8 years if they weren't good.
And he's even done some vintage stuff for us. We've gone, hey, there's a KX500 from mid-80s.
Yep.
Can you just make the seat cover for it? And it's perfect.
When the new shape CRF110s came out, no one made a tall seat for those bikes, and I bought one, and Tony made me a tall seat, which in my mind looks way better than the BBR tall seat. And I just bought another 110 recently and got him to do the exact same thing. Unreal, really nice people, super good to deal with. Price is unreal.
Oh, more than unreal. I think it's the work that he puts into it.
It is, it's very good.
You watch his prices go up now.
Oh yeah, you can charge $100 a seat.
We've done ourselves there.
Can put your logos on it, anything. So yeah, the seat, it was a no-brainer. Just go to SP Moto seats.
They're amazing.
I'll do the job.
Yeah. Alright guys, so that's probably a bit of a wrap for this one, I reckon. We've covered as much as we can. It's sort of, we don't want to keep you too long. Any questions or anything you want to know, anything more you want to know about the bike, the build and stuff we do, check out our Instagram. The Garage 11 Instagram or Marshall's.
My personal. So obviously the Garage 11 is garage_11_11. And mine's Marshall.744.
We'll put them up in the bio,
Yeah, that'll be up in
links,
the
all that
bio.
sort of stuff.
We're always willing to help you out with any questions that you have.
Sometimes we're not the quickest at getting back, but we will get there. Like I said, yeah, big thanks to JSV, SV Moto Seats, Rival for doing the graphics on this one, Carlos at Easy Products for the wheels and all that sort of stuff. We work with a lot of good guys, and we're generally building up a lot more relationship with people since this bike sort of gone through. MTO for the coding and all the effort they put in with a lot of this stuff. So yeah, it is definitely a pretty wild bike, and it's cool to sort of to pull it apart and have a chat about it, because it has a lot going into it. So we're going to try doing these probably more regularly, maybe every couple of weeks. If you do have something of interest, something genuinely of interest that you think would be cool to pull apart, feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely get it in, and we'll have a chat about it and do a little video. It'd be really cool to start building up some relationships with some of you, some of the owners. So yeah, that'd be really good. Alright guys, once again, Kane from Garage 11. It's my business partner Marshall, and thank you for watching Behind the Build. Thank you.